Well, the FCCPC has said that consumers are free to make complaints to them concerning issues around electricity supply and appliances, and they hope to take that up. And we hope to follow up on some of those issues that have been raised, not just with Ikeja Disco, but also Ibadan and other parts of the country where FCCPC has visited. Well, it's not just about taking the complaints, obviously, it's about getting the solution. So that's why we'll follow up with FCCPC on that. Now, we move to another issue, and that's cross-border payment. Of course, we are very concerned about cross-border payment within the continent because we have such a huge potential in NAFTA. But how much of that can be explored if payment becomes a challenge? In 2022, about 40 million Africans living outside the continent made about $100 billion in cross-border remittances through different channels. But making those payments within Africa becomes another challenge. You don't have to take my word for it. I've said it a couple of times. I've also had the experience. But let's have joining us from our Abuja studio, Aro Leonard. He's the founder of Clevaro Communications. He's just had an experience coming back into the country, trying to make some payments outside Nigeria with a Nigerian card. So I'll just allow you say it. Aro, good afternoon and welcome to the program. Could you please share your experience with us?
Good afternoon, and it's good to be here. It was quite shocking for me because my Visa card, I had used it outside the country before. In fact, when I first used it was in Dubai, and there I wasn't very sure then. And I was trying to do some conversions, dollar conversion, and the shop owner, an indigene of Dubai there, just told me, hey, you don't need to do that. Just, don't you have your Nigerian Visa card? I said, yes, I do. Use it. We'll use it on the POS and bim. And I could purchase anything I wanted to purchase, came back into the country. So I believe that was something that was normal because we know Visa cards, MasterCards, use them everywhere. But only for me to get to Ghana last week, and it was strange. You know, got to the airport, you know, tried all the ATM machines there. First 3 of them rejected the card, they could not pay. And then I saw UBA machine. I said, oh, okay, good, we have a Nigerian bank here. And I tried it there, the same thing. And it was strange, so I couldn't use it, I couldn't withdraw anything, and I didn't have local currencies to use. You know, a good Samaritan who flew with me to Abuja, I didn't even ask him any question. You know, they are very good Nigerians everywhere. You know, he just told me, hey, you're having challenges. I said, yes. He had to use his US card to withdraw. And he says, hey, don't worry, what hotel are you going to? I'll pay your cab to the hotel. And he did that for me. You know, and then I got to find out that there's some really modern black markets alternatives for me there, where I would have to lose about 200,000 naira for every 100,000 naira I try to withdraw there. So it's really funny because if we say we're talking about integration, you know, within West Africa setting, like my travel, you know, traveling from here to Ghana through the airport and everything was just as if I was going from Abuja to Jos or Lagos to Abeokuta. It was stress-free, easy. At immigration, everything was just normal. So why would there now be a barrier when it comes to using your card to purchase things? And you can imagine the number of Nigerians doing businesses there. And the cab guy that took me, he said, this just started not too long ago, and that was around 2022 or thereabout. And when it first started, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but these days it just doesn't work. So it was a really funny experience for me, if not for the fact that, okay, one had some dollars, one would have been, you know, stranded. And if we're talking about pressure on dollar, why would I have to try to get the hard foreign exchange dollars that we are trying to stabilize? Why would I have to withdraw that each time I want to go to somewhere like Ghana
Just on neighboring Ghana here, but
it's strange.
Yeah, so let's talk to Jacqueline Juma. Jacqueline Juma is a Director, Advocacy and Capacity Development at Africa Nenda. And Africa Nenda is very much into payment systems and all. She joins us from Nairobi, Kenya. Hi, Jacqueline, good afternoon. Hello, Jacqueline, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope you heard Arrow's experience. Could you tell us what's going on here? Why is it so? And we've been at this for a while. I know there's PAPS. PAPS is supposed to make payments across borders seamless, especially for trade and commerce. You know, so why does it seem so difficult? And now he just came from Ghana. Just Ghana is how many hours away from Nigeria, and he's not able to use his card. What are we missing?
Very well said. It's true that there are some challenges right now, to my understanding. There's what we call the tight exchange rate controls currently happening in Nigeria, sparked by a plunge in foreign exchange revenue. And therefore, Nigerians who are Naira card holders are not able to conduct transactions out of the country, either through ATM withdrawals, online, making online payments, or even just paying from a point of sale, which is the POS. This is a policy issue where these stringent measures have been deliberately, put in place to try and save the situation when it comes to this dollar or foreign exchange shortage. There are other challenges around or barriers around operations, for instance, which include different systems, which is the payment systems. And I'm speaking to retail payments because retail payments, as we speak today in Africa, are the ones that really have a long way to go in terms of the infrastructure that creates seamless payments. The barriers around this challenge have to do with cost implication of having different systems speaking to different systems, whereby you need a middleman. For example, entities that provide API integrations so that these payment systems can speak to each other seamlessly. And with that, there's a cost implication. In fact, in sub-Saharan Africa, this is the most expensive region, despite there being the AfCFTA protocol and we looking forward to a single market and the ease of trade in the region. So in terms of digital payments transactions, it makes these transactions an average of, costing an average of 7.8% of the value that is being transacted, let alone the barriers that have been purposely put to save from the foreign exchange costs. The other challenge has to do with cash is king, of course. So many and not only for remittances, for instance, also what we call the retail person to business. So whenever anyone is making a merchant payment, you're making a payment through a POS, for example, across different markets. It's a challenge because the use cases, that is the person to business and business to business use cases, have not been enabled. So the infrastructure is not supporting some of these use cases. So these are some of the challenges that we are seeing. And for me, it's a call for some sort of policy harmonization across countries in Africa, especially in anticipating the AfCFTA protocol, which is opening up the space for trading and business. Because it's not only when, at the moment, we are trying to encourage the MSMEs to move into that fold. And so making payments, either a remittance transaction, which is the case of my colleague in studio, or when you're making payments for particular goods and services. So all these require robust infrastructure to speak to retail payment systems, and it starts with policy harmonization in the continent.
So what's up with Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, that's PAPS? We celebrated it, we're hopeful. This infrastructure has stopped it from working, or is it on a pause, maybe from Nigeria's part?
Okay, it's not, to my understanding, they're still building the rails for the wholesale, which is the large value transactions. It's working very well. Where there's a gap still and where there's a lot to be done is in facilitating retail payments, which are, the example, and, my colleague in studio has provided an example. These are transactions that are individual transaction, low value transaction, but they're the majority in the continent, given the market base for MSMEs, and whenever you need to do remittances or even just small value transactions, that's the largest chunk. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to go into ensuring that this infrastructure supports the low value transactions, and also adhering to some settlement challenges, because at the moment, because of the fluctuation in the dollar pricing, there's a lot in terms of work that needs to go behind the scenes to make this infrastructure work, from both enabling these transactions to go through, and at the same time to facilitate settlement so that the transactions are instant and useful to individuals as well.
So, Jacqueline, it doesn't sound like ECHO is going to work anytime in the future. The common currency that was being, talked about a bit ago.
I wouldn't say so. The problem with me defining the future, there is the problem, because the future can be tomorrow, the future can be next year, or it can be 10 years to come. It has taken a long while, for instance, for the AFCFTA protocol to be adopted. It's been a journey, ensuring that all state parties are working together to ensure that everybody's endeavors are, considered in the protocol. It's the same thing when it comes to ensuring that this infrastructure speaks to the different requirements for all the markets, for instance, and especially from our low value transaction. For the high value, I'm not worried, because the banks are facilitating this through correspondence banking, and it makes sense because the values are large. But when it comes to individual transactions, that is where I would say a lot needs to be done. And I cannot say or that it's bound to work or it's bound to fail, because I understand that it's a journey and it calls for different stakeholders. It calls for a lot of collaboration in the space, speaking to the PAPs and other stakeholders, the fintech players, the banks involved, to look at how they can come together and drive interoperability to ensure that infrastructure speaks to the transactions that you and I can make across border.
All right, let me turn to Aro now in Abuja studio. Aro, since you came back with this experience, have you had a word with your bank, customer service? In case you want to travel another time, do you have an alternative of what you could do to ease your travels around Africa?
And that's the funny thing. Before I traveled, I spoke to one of my bankers, and he said my Visa card could work. That means even people who work within the banking sector don't even know that the Visa card doesn't work in some places. And the other alternative I was given was to now get a dollar card. So they are expecting everybody to have a domiciliary account. So anytime you want to travel, you use that card. So that card would work. That's what I was told. But if it's coming from a Nigerian bank, it might just be the same thing. But my question is, this same card worked before. So what made it work before, and why can't it work now? And when we are talking about, like from the last regime, we started talking about digital economy, because the same challenge, we've had the same challenge trying to pay things online. If it's subscription for things as simple as your Microsoft Word, not even talking about other transactions you do online. There are people who are supposed to be making some money using social media pages. They are not able to because of this same situation. And no word from the government. I've not seen, anything, anybody come out there to say, hey, ordinary Nigerian, this is what you could do. There were lots of Nigerians that went to Ghana this weekend, and a lot of them had to spend dollars. The same dollar we are talking about that the pressure is too much on. I decided to use Airpeace because it's Nigerian. And guess what? It saved me about 200,000 naira or more, on the airfare. I have done my part as a citizen, buying Nigeria, and all that, but I couldn't use my card to do any other thing. For my connecting flight from Kumasi, from Accra to Kumasi and Kumasi back to Accra, I had to contact my friend in the US to pay for me. And this is Nigeria and Ghana. They drop you in Ghana in the middle of the day. You'll think you're in Nigeria. There's no difference between Nigeria and Ghana. And it's really strange. And the banking industry, I'm speaking to bankers here, they are not really educating us on what to do. They just like to take our money, keep our money. I tried Stanbic Bank, there's Standard Chartered there, there's UBA there, you name it. These are banks, our same banks here are there. So why is it that difficult? Why is it difficult to educate Nigerians when someone is opening an account or running a current account or getting a visa? You're able to educate the person on what to do so people don't get to places and get stranded. And then we don't put unnecessary pressure on the dollar.
Yeah, so Jacqueline, what would you advise anybody like Aro now? I want to travel to do, I know you said the bulk and the big retail are being taken care of. But for people like us, you and I, who just want to travel, spend a day or two outside within the continent, how can we survive? What should we be doing?
Well said. I think from my understanding, first of all, to answer his question as to why initially he was able to do this transaction and currently he is not, it's because of a policy change. Remember when I started talking, I said that there are many factors that are contributing to the challenges around making cross-border payments. Some of them are regulatory induced. And what I mean by this is, in the case of Nigeria right now, what happened was initially you were able to use your Naira card in making transactions out of the borders of Nigeria. And then came this policy review, and it's attributed to plunge in the foreign exchange revenue, leading to parallel foreign exchange markets and also some pressure in the formal cross-border payment industry. The challenge here really is the settlement, because initially the Central Bank of Nigeria was provided some cushioning in terms of settlement of transactions in foreign currency, because the foreign currency was there. But now that there's a shortage, it has made the policymakers to review this policy, to revise this policy, to speak to putting restrictions to the use of the local card internationally because of these tight exchange rate controls, and therefore you're not able to use the Naira card. Now, I've seen a coping mechanism happening right now in Nigeria because, from colleagues and in the industry at large. And the coping mechanism is to have a domiciliary dollar account in Nigeria. And therefore, when you're traveling, you would use your card that is associated with this USD account. And because this is a policy implication, it calls for, watching out for the financial service providers to educate the users, that is the UNIs, in terms of how they should, what are the coping mechanisms around these restrictions in the local card. So I think there's a gap in terms of how the financial service providers are educating the general public that, look, this was enabled when there was high foreign exchange revenue, but now the foreign exchange revenue is low. This is how we should go about it, and not just allow them to open Naira accounts and at the same time they are not able to make transactions across borders. I think there's a part for the financial service providers to play, that is the banks, to play in consumer and awareness of the realities of these changes in policy.
All right, thank you so much for that, Jacqueline Juma. And we hope that the financial institutions will come in there, for enlightenment of members of the public. So thank you so much, Jacqueline Juma, Director, Advocacy and Capacity Development at Africa NENDA, and Aro Leonard, founder of Clivario Communications, for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.